Do you sometimes wonder, is this my thinking mind? Is my logic mind? Is my anxiety? Or is this my intuition? How can I tell the difference? Which one do I trust? Well, you're in the right place. Today, we're going to talk about intuition versus thinking, and actually why they are the best of friends, not enemies, and how to know the difference between the two. Hi, I'm Sonia Telly. I'm a fourth generation intuitive, and I help people plug back into their innate divine GPS, their intuition. And today we are talking about such an important topic, thinking versus intuition, or overthinking versus intuition. If you're somebody who constantly wonders, is this my intuition? Is this overthinking? Then you are probably part of something that I call the woulda, shoulda, coulda club. The woulda, shoulda, coulda club are people who are guided, who get hits, nudges, little whispers from the universe. But guess what? As soon as they get it, they think, is this my intuition? Can I trust it? Do I know what I'm even doing? And they miss the moment. So why does this happen? Why can't I just trust my intuition? How do I know? Why do I even want to know? Well, the thing is we live in a world that loves information. The way that we have been designed, that we have been programmed, that we have been socialized is to look for the right answer. And the thing about intuition is it doesn't work in right, wrong, good, bad, all or nothing. It works in vibration, and it guides you to not what is right, but what is true. And when we move out of the paradigm of right, wrong, good, bad, all or nothing, we actually move out of a patriarchal way of being, of like this idea of having to look outside of ourselves with some sort of authority that will tell us what is the right thing to do, and actually start to connect back to our own innate divine self, our own intuition, that innate divine spark that lives in you, so that you can trust what is true for you and really be guided by your own bright light that resides within your body. See, thinking and intuition actually go hand in hand. They're not enemies. That's the way that we have often been taught and socialized to think about them. That if I'm a thinking person, if I'm a rational person, then there's no space for intuition. But in reality, our rational mind helps us not get caught up in not only appearance, but our rational mind actually has us organize the world around us. And what I mean by that is like your rational mind is linear. It works in A, B, C, D. It has no access to creativity. It has no access to imagination, but it's a good organizer. And reason, which is actually our faculty that helps us look and reason and go beyond getting caught up in appearances, that actually helps us to critically think and say, is that true? Your intellect is the part of you that says, is that true? And if it's not true, if it's not true, it's like, is all I know everything there is to know? Your intellect will be the part that says, no, that's not true. And that actually opens us up to our intuitive self. So your intellect, your mind, your thinking mind organizes the way around you. And what it likes to do is it only has a certain access of information, like this much, beep, like looking through a tiny peephole. And that information is what we gather from books, from information, from reasoning, but it only has a limited bandwidth. But that limited bandwidth helps us with decision making, helps us with processing. We love it. Your thinking mind is a wonderful organizational tool, but it doesn't know all there is to know. Now your intuition is your innate divine consciousness. This is the part of you, it's cosmic consciousness. And the way that we like to think about it is your intuition, each little person is like a little bay, your little bay. And the ocean, which is the divine stuff, that cosmic consciousness, is what comes into your little bay. And when we think about intuition is actually just the act of a deep listening. And instead of listening to words or information like our thinking mind, what it's listening to is vibration. And it resonates. And it guides you to what is true for now. Your intuition resides in the present moment. Unlike your thinking mind that likes to think about yesterday or tomorrow or what's gonna happen or what might happen. Well, your intuition is grounded right here, right now, and gives you step by step by step ways to actually start to move forward. But this is where your intuition actually partners really well with your thinking mind. Intuition works best when you have a destination, when you know where it is that you're going. And that's how your thinking mind can say, this is something that I want. This is where we're going. And that's how your intuition can help guide you step by step. Best friends, not enemies. But we often get caught up because we like to think of intuition as thinking as two opposite polarities, when in reality, they're not. See, when we get caught up in too much thinking, how to know when you're in thinking? One, thinking talks a lot and shoulds, have tos, musts. It's constantly trying to figure things out. It's obsessed with information. It wants all the information. Your thinking mind will want to go get tacos and will read every single Yelp review and read every single idea of the Yelp review, and then it still feels like if I have enough information, then I can make a decision that is safe. Then I'll make the right decision. But if you're like me and have also been through every single Yelp review, you'll recognize that afterwards you actually just get into information overload. You have so many different criteria. Do you choose because of the stars, by people's reviews? Do you choose by how long it's been around? That's where our thinking mind can get caught up, because it likes to believe if we have so much information, we'll know what is right. But right is kind of an ever-moving thing. What is right? What's right for you might be different than what's right for me, as opposed to what might be right according to your third grade teacher, Mr. Morris. He might have a different idea. So that's why it's so important to connect with ourselves and our own intuition to say and what resonates as true. Reading all those reviews, having that thinking mind of where I want to go get tacos, your intuition will say, hey, this is the one. When I'm in this receptive, open state of being available, let me look at all the different taco places. Let me be open for something to show up. And that's where your intuition will come, boop, that's the spot. So when we get too caught up in thinking and trying to figure out what's right, we get into a place of too much talking. Think about even if you've ever chatted with a friend and you justify why you're making a decision, or you get so stuck on a problem that you can't do anything but talk about it. And in trying to figure it out, you talk. That's your thinking mind. And when in all that talking, there is no solution. Even though our thinking mind likes to think that there is, that we'll figure it out. But your thinking mind can say, this is the problem. This is where I need guidance. This is where I can be available. This isn't what's working. While your intuition will actually have a whole new place. Your intuition will say, okay, now that we know what the problem is, let's quiet that thinking mind and open ourselves up to receptivity to get a solution, not from my limited intellect, but from my innate divine consciousness, that part of me that actually connects to that sea, my little bay that resides within me. Intuition, like I said, it works in vibration. It doesn't speak in words. It speaks in symbols. It speaks in images. It's not verbose because that's not the language of the divine. Anytime that you get into too much talking, that's when we get into our heads. So how can we tell the difference between our thinking mind and our intuition? Thinking, black, white, right, wrong, all, nothing, good, bad, right? Should, have to, must. More and more and more information. Your intuition resides in the present moment, speaks in vibration, is creative, has solutions, drops in something that you wouldn't have thought of, resonates in your whole body as true, and guides you to your highest good. You know, an interesting thing is that we can get so caught up in how things appear that we forget to listen. You know, just recently I had a client, I mentor and I do readings, and I have for over a decade. And I had a client who is in a very high-powered job. And she had wanted this job for a super long time. And she got into this position and found that she hated all of her coworkers. It was just a very toxic environment. But she thought that she wanted to be there because it was a position that she had wanted. So what her thinking mindset said, if I tough it out and figure it out, then I will move and be promoted, and I like this where I am, and this is what it will be. but she actually hated it. But her thinking mind kept saying, we'll give more information and that's gonna be what it is. And so when I was actually talking to her, I said, is this actually true with what you want? Does this resonate in your heart space? And she said, well, the way that how things unfold, the way that this works in my company is that I have to be in this position and that's how it is and I'm gonna figure it out. And if I think about it, these are all the different things that I need to accomplish. And then I asked her, I said, have you asked your intuition? And she was like, oh, no. I mean, this is just the way that it is. But when we actually stopped and I said, okay, hold on. Let's create some space for some listening, right? That's talking, thinking, talking, intuition, listening. And not listening to words, but vibration. And let's just ask, does this resonate? Is this your path, the only path forward? And it took a moment, and then she got quiet. She started talking. I said, no, that's talking. Just tune into your heart space. She created some space for listening, took a few deep breaths, and out popped, no, I should apply for the promotion now. And she was surprised. She was like, no, that's not how it works. That's not how it works in my company. I have to be vetted. And I said, wait. Let's just be open for something else to show up. And so she actually decided to listen to her intuition, something that made no sense to her logic mind, that found a solution to something that she was struggling with, where she wanted to move but was miserable. She applied and actually ended up getting a way higher position that she would have never imagined, that her intellect said that she had to go in this linear way, but found and was promoted to this amazing position in this whole new place, moved, loved her new coworkers, loved her whole new thing. And she said, Sonia, I would have never thought of that. That would have never been something that had occurred to me. I would have just assumed that the way that I knew it to be true was the way that it was to unfold. And that's the magic thing about our intuition. As my Nana would say, what you know to be true is only true as of today or yesterday. You don't know about tomorrow. And that's the thing about when we can open up to our intuition versus our thinking mind. So, one, you're thinking, like we covered, of what it feels like. It talks, it doesn't open a solution, it's linear. Intuition works in vibrations, finds solution, is deep listening, not to words, but to your heart, spirit, self. And that's your innate divine consciousness. All you have to do is get underneath the chatter. And the way that you do that, one, create space. Make time for quiet. This is why we talk about meditation. If that's not your vibe, go for a walk, anything. Take a bath, wash the dishes. What are the things in that quiet, that part, that little rotisserie chicken on a spit, as I always talk about? What gets you into the moment? Maybe it's gardening. Who knows? Be curious. Watch for the places in which you listen. 2, recognize that whatever you're struggling with is just a problem. And you're not going to solve your same problem with the thinking that you got into it with. So just be open to solution. Be open to something different. Be open to surprise. And see how available you are for that. A lot of times we don't want to. We can get kind of stuck in our ways of thinking. And 3, notice how it always uplifts you. Intuition might not be the answer that you want. You might not get what you think you want, but it will resonate. It will calm and ground your body. It will feel true. And if you're really struggling, pay attention to all the different ways that you've already got little hits, nudges, notices, no big deal things, whether they're however they start to show up, and start to notice and acknowledge how you're already intuitive. And use that ways of just those little ways of those ways that you can actually start to gain momentum. So if you get an intuitive hit, trust it. Don't think about it. Notice that it's telling you something right now, guidance right now. So be movable, as my mom would say. So Hope that you enjoyed this video. Recognize your intuition is your innate divine consciousness. You got this. And if you like this video, hit subscribe. Tell me what you like. Tell me about how you think. How do you experience your intuition? And as always, don't forget to check out my spiritual toolkit. I have a guided meditation. I have all sorts of stuff, a workbook. And if you want to work with me, book a soul reading with me. Clear on your soul purpose, who you are in present time, some different questions. And I have a bunch of different resources and ways. So leave me a comment, tell me what you think. I'm sending you all my love. Bye.